So I go up here, I connect with the elder and we walk up and it's just up the hallway. And then there was this side, this is the way we came in, but before we came in, there was like a doorway up a little bit. And so we came down it and then it was a corner and we turned down. So that room would have been either in here somewhere behind walls, or maybe, I don't really know the full layout of the whole space, but it was something like that. So it was just in the, it was just this hall, it's just this room, sorry, in this space here. So I came down and the elder basically comes here and she puts herself behind a chair. And then in this space is, so to my left are books, like a bookshelf. It's a bookshelf, literally a bookshelf. And to my straight are computer consoles that kind of do curve a little bit. And then to the right is a desk. There's a chair, and then behind her is these soothing white lights, slightly moving, like there's kind of like little, like almost like lava lamp, but again, it's oozing, it's emitting feelings, it's emitting like calming and relaxing, and it's the only light in the room. Otherwise, it's this really relaxed light. Otherwise, the room has a kind of dark vibe to it. It's like a low lit vibe, except for this white light coming from the behind the elder. I look at the books and I say, "Are these readable books?" And she encourages me, "Take one out and see for yourself." So I pulled out the book and I opened it up, and these holograms basically pull out. Again, these idea that I don't even know, they're communicating with holograms, right? They have script, but then there's this other level of information, and it's this holograms. And I guess I'm assuming that's what it does for them. All I know is it comes out, these objects or these holograms, and they're purple lines and dented things, and green, purple and like greenish metallic, and they all kind of like protrude out. And so I say, "This is like that book you showed me a whole other era ago." So I'm remembering the Mystic book from my first contact event, but not knowing it's a data dump put in me. So anyway, all this layers to stuff. So she just kind of let me look at it, like, wow. And then she's like, "Sit down." So she motions for me to sit down. I put the book back. So now I'm sitting across from her and she says, "What else would you like to know?" So she's actually holding herself like this. She's got her arms on the desk like this. And she says, "What else would you like to know?" She has strange mannerisms. And, or at least I'm fascinated when her mannerisms are slightly humanoid a little bit, where she kind of talks or telepathically emotes sometimes with movement with her hands. I find it all very fascinating. I said, "I'm happy. I'm fulfilled by what I learned. So you made me? You added your genes to me, and they're your genes?" So this was new to me. She never explained to me at all that I had her genetics. I was told I have their genetics. I didn't know it was her genetics. Very distinct. Yes, this is also very interesting what she says. They are your genes, my genes, your parents' genes, and his genes, pointing to the leader in the other room. All of it combined is what makes you up. Do you understand? Yeah. I find, okay, forget that just gray alien genes, but also some kind of hybrid or mantis. I don't get this stuff, man. And also my genes. So she says, my genes, so your genes, like you, she's telling me your genes, my genes, your parents. So only when you look at genetic, when you actually have to study genetics, the human gene isn't actually coming from two parents. There's a human gene, and then the two parents' genes are added on top of it. So that's what is like information I had no knowledge about when the stuff is coming out of me, and I'm remembering these details. And so I hear like your genes, my genes, and your parents' genes. What should I thought? So just saying your genes is really, it's tiny details that always kind of add up. It's very fascinating. So I say that leader being said, some of us may know about these events. Will I? Because I'm really wanting to know that I was having alien contact. She said, "Okay, let's go over here." So she gets up from the chair, she walks over, and we walk over here, walk to this console right here. And she kind of like touches or does something, she presses a button or something. And then this pops up on a screen. So it's on a screen, and it just looks like this. It's like a side chart, organizational chart almost. Now I can having completed it in the memory, I understand it. And the moment I didn't get it, but I know that I'm right here. This was the alternating choice of my life, and I ended up here, and this is where I ended up learning. But there's versions of my life where I don't know about alien contact until much later, or I know about alien contact much sooner. So this is, she says, this is your timeline of possible events. This is the outline of what could occur till you learn about us. We didn't know what was going to happen. We have trajectories, outlines, and maps, but you make the ultimate choices. In your plan, you need to know about us. You can only understand the pain you've experienced by understanding what this actually was. Okay. So I wanted to know more. So since I was able to ask questions, the leader being implied, you've been monitoring my inner world. So I was really wanting to know about some of this detail that I just learned. And so she comes over here to this console. And then she does this. Now I feel it right away what I'm looking at. And this is, so in that presentation I did with my book launch, and I talked about having 2 of everything. It doesn't just help me, it doesn't just help me be able to talk about things, it also helps me know for certain that this thing occurred. So seeing my thoughts twice on a computer confirms that my brain can never make up the feelings of seeing my thoughts on a computer. It can't happen. This happened. Like, this is real. The beings are doing this, and this is 100% a fact that my thoughts are loaded into some computer somewhere by great aliens, but number 2, I saw it. So when I looked at this, I could see that these were thoughts that I had, not just that, they're thoughts I had that day. So they're the thoughts. I'm like, I know that thought. And I was just having that thought. And of course, my inner world is insecure in Toronto. I feel very unsure about my entire life at that time. And so all my thoughts kind of have insecurities in them. And I could feel them, and I'm looking at them, and I know distinct moments. And I'm kind of appalled. So how did you do this? How do you have my thoughts? She says, there is a micro object in your brain that is like an antenna. And she projected an image into my mind of a satellite dish in my brain pointing into the sky. When we then attuned our frequencies to yours, it's a specific frequency coming off your mind that we can tune into because of your genetics. Because you are combined with us genetically, then we know how to tune into that frequency, and we can pick up your thoughts and we can analyze them. And we have been putting them into a computer. It's the best way to explain that. It happens with technology that you can't understand. And then you analyzed my thoughts. I was disturbed to learn this at the time. And then she kind of like defends, right? Like, she's like, we needed to know and understand fully how you merged with what we gave you. So do you mean that you continue to monitor my thoughts? Does this not stop? Yes, it means we are connected, and we will always be connected. Just the way it's framed is, anyway, it's very, so at the time, it's kind of like, anyway, you kind of give up. Eventually, you kind of just give up. You're like, okay, like the intention is well-meaning. It is fascinating. It's intrusive as hell, but you kind of like get that, at this point, I understood they're not saying they're judging me or laughing about my thoughts, or, they're not even judging. There's no morality behind it, right? For them, it's all kind of just scientific, right? So you kind of eventually accept these things. So then I ask another question. You showed me the great waves. What's going to happen to humanity? Can you tell me what's the future? So she says, we don't know. The future is tenable. That word is interesting, by the way, tenable, which would mean you can defend against the future. It's a very strange choice of word. The future is not recorded. It is not set in stone. So there's outlines of how things can occur, but the picture is a lot larger, and you'll get more information about it in time. So there was a kind of a wall. There was kind of a shrugged shoulder wall. I can't talk too much more about it. So then she says, if you're done, we can leave. There is something to show you about the future. Okay, I'm ready to go. Thank you. So I had a moment. It was very fascinating, right? What they're doing here. Like after all these contact events, traveling, they're opening up. They're transparent about what's going on, right? And unless there's information I can't understand, and so they do kind of stop, they create boundaries. But overall, they're trying to make us feel comfortable and good and that about what had occurred, right? We go out the hallway and we meet the group, and everyone else is kind of filing out from their rooms as well too. And then as a group, we all collectively go out the door. We were up here. We all file out. We're walking single file down the hallway, and then we turn left. So remember the hangars over here. So we're going further down the hallway now, and we go further down, and then eventually we turn right, going into the wall, and there's a door. And we enter in a white medical space that feels genetic and like medical, and there are these beds, reclining chairs for operations or medical stuff. And we go to the back, and in the back is a glass wall, and it has a bit of an opening on this left side. And when we get up, there's children in they're like a 1-year-old, like little children, little girls and boys. And they're gray alien human hybrids, and they got eyes that kind of go back a little bit further. They're pure black. They have a little bit like slightly larger cranium, and they're weird looking, but they're playing, and they're kind of like having fun, and they're playing in their environment. And one of the elders says, "These are the children of the future." And I put together, I could feel it. These were the kids, the babies I saw in my 21st contact events, where I was with the elder and the ancient one, and they showed me a crib, they showed me a nursery, and these were those kids, now a year old, and they're playing and stuff. And so we were encouraged to come in. So come in, and then we were encouraged. So as soon as we get in, all the children, yay, and they all kind of like run up, and they're all like really cute and excited for humans, and they all run up to them. And some of the humans were in absolute adoration for these children. I saw the Serbian girl get on her knees, like out of like just love and affection. I saw the Congolesian man, the black man, he fell at his knees, and everyone wants to play with these kids. And I was a little bit more off put by them. I'm going to make a point that I still to this day don't think my genes were in these kids. I have a reason why I think that is. I think there was something in the program and the way the traveling went in those first year in 1998 that made them not be able to use my genes. There's something anyway, because I don't feel a genetic bond with any of these kids in this room. And but they were still part of the program nonetheless. So we were encouraged to play with them, touch them, hold them, I heard. And I did look over at one point, and the elders, one of the elders, or two of them or something, were leaning down, and they were interacting with the babies as well too. So there was this kind of like joyful moment of playing with these children. And I sat on the floor, and oh yeah, sorry, let me just explain the room to you. There was a table right here, like a child table, and there were toys and spewed around. And then there was a console, an adult console, raised up, so the little babies couldn't play on it or couldn't touch it. And then we all kind of sat around. I was over here somewhere. I saw the Serbian girl and the Congo guy here, and the Russian kid was over here, and we were kind of like strewn around. And as I sat down, a little boy did walk up to me, and so we were encouraged to touch them and hold them. And so I grabbed him, and I was highly uncomfortable with this kid in my lap, and you know, I'm just like, I'm uncomfortable, and I'm looking around at them, and I see them kind of excited and playing with them. But it kind of was dawning on me, this whole thing that was going on. There was there's a larger connection that was being created by all my contact events, right? I have 26 altogether. And a lot of what's going on is a mystery through most of the contact events. Why, the whys and the whats, right? And it's kind of like, this is the what. This is the why, actually. This is the why. Like this, I was holding the why. I was holding the why. I was holding why the White Room, why the Rising. I was holding it in my hands. And it was obvious now that this was a program. Like they called it a program. There was a leader of the program. There were these other humans, like everything's this whole big shebang. And it's because I'm holding this result, which is a species, a new species. And because I had learned from the 10th contact event that they plan to put themselves on planet Earth, I knew where this guy was going. He was going to be put on planet Earth. So, and we were kind of like part of it all. Like it was this, listen, it's kind of like you got two sides to this, right? Because you create a full identity with the beings, and especially if you aren't aware of that identity as a human every day, your everyday life, then you kind of have this like a you drink the Kool-Aid, I guess you could say, right? It's kind of a cult, actually, in every way. Like you're full. I was fully immersed, and that's not a cult, but I was fully immersed in that world, and I became proud. I had these like rich feelings at the time of like, oh my God, like I was part of this program, and I helped them. I helped them build a species. Like I'm part of that, and it was like it was not just fascinating, but it was something I was proud of, and it was kind of this love, and I could feel from those elders. This was their like job. This was their task. This is what their whole their sense of like drive and being and livelihood, and was the importance of these little guys in our hands. They loved these guys, and they had the sense of like responsibility for their creation and their growth. And so it was this kind of like overarching picture being created, and I had feelings of being proud of it all, like kind of that I was proud to have been part of creating a new species. And so I really did feel those ways in that room there. And so that's kind of it. It's like time to kind of like end this. We need to get going. And the children are all unemotional. No one gets attached, and they all kind of have to separate from us. And then we all kind of file out, and we all file out here. We meet outside, and then the elder basically says, "Come with me." So she separates a bunch, and I don't know what happens to the rest. I'm assuming they all have to go do something else, or maybe they do something similar. I don't know. But me, the Serbian girl, and the Congo man, the Congo boy, we all kind of get together, and then the four of us walk out, come out of the room, down the hallway, over to this transporter. We all kind of individually go up. We come out here and another floor. It feels like it could have gone a couple floors higher than the last time I had gone through a transporter here. And I'm looking at a very kind of dark space, very dark, but low lit. And these are the glass wall. And there was a hallway that kind of seemed to go further, and it just got darker and I couldn't see. And this area was relatively dark, like low lit, I guess I should say. And then there was a raised platform in the middle, and then a glass encased, kind of glass encasement on top of the raised, and then an object inside that was glowing purple. And so we get into it. There's a doorway here. We get inside, and she says, "We want to show you something." So she tells us basically there's a sensation of take off your clothing. Well, we need to get rid of all of our clothes. So all of us humans do, and then she does. And the elder takes off her like one-piece jumpsuit or something. And the elder is naked, and she has no genitalia, right? She's this like walking Gumby doll, basically, this walking, no belly button, no breast, no genitalia of any kind. And so she's just this Gumby doll. And then we all get in, and we all kind of walk in. And so we're in this kind of egged enclosure, this glass enclosure, and this egg thing is emitting some kind of a field. It's like a field, like an electric, it's changing the field of something. And then she says, like, she wants us to get closer to it, and then like basically put your hand out and then look at your hand. So then we looked at her hand as it's getting close to this emitting field, and we could see through her hand, not bones or muscles. Like our hand was like jello, or just it was like there's nothing inside, and it was just this like outline of my hand basically. And so she wants us to bathe in it. So bathe in it, get into this and bathe in it. So there was a sense of like putting our body all in it. So you kind of like just get into it and get into this field and make sure every part of your body was covering it. And there was a feeling that it was doing something to the genetics, like since the rising, as if my genetics were wired up or turned on in some way, and then now they were like muting things. Now it's time to shut things down, and now that period of your life is over. Almost, I kind of say it in the book, like a ritual cleansing was occurring. And so it's very kind of cleansing and getting or changing something. It changed something in the genetics, and I didn't really know what it was doing, but it did feel neat, and it did have a weird effect to the body. That's it. And then we all kind of get we all come out, we all get our clothes back on. And that was just we were supposed to do that. I don't know. We get back down, we go to the transporter, we're back down on the main floor, and we go back into the hangar. And then when we're back in the hangar, the other humans with the other elders are there. And then it seems that every elder has a goodbye with their humans. So then I have a moment with my elder. Oh, and so as I mentioned, my emotional state is muted. So I have this kind of like my higher self, like my spiritual consciousness, whatever. I had this kind of trauma around it, and I just really shut it down. And so I wasn't in a higher consciousness space. And it's unfortunately for that 20-year-old guy, it's going to create problems for years of his life, and who is me. And so it's maybe the elder knew this. So the moment we connect, she projects a tear. She has like sadness, and she's done this with me before, where I don't say that she's emotional, but your feelings can project like kind of sadness, right? Like you can have states of consciousness, and I'm convinced that beings don't have emotions, but they have states, like feeling states. And so they can feel sad. They can actually become saddened when they love something or when they like something. And so they can actually experience that. And I don't really know fully, but she was sad, and there was a projected image of her with a tear in her mind. A tear in her eye. Not that I saw her have a tear, but she had this kind of a projection. And then that was it. It's like kind of cut off, right? So then she knows it's whatever. She kind of projects out the energy, and then she changes it to the next conversation. And she says, "We will meet again." I don't know what that actually means at this point, because I'm not clear. And knowing that I had her genetics, I make a joke and I say, "Thanks, Mom." And then she does this tap, and she says, "Get out of here." And she taps me with like a telepathic tap. It does it like this on the side of my chin. And I don't know what the hell that is, because I've never done something like that. And it was really weird that she did that. And so it was a strange thing. And then that was it. I file into we all file in together into the ship. And then when I'm in the ship, that's when we're all like, "What was that?" All of us humans are all kind of, "Whoa, what's that?" What just like, we were all just taken out of our environments, taken to this grand meeting, explained all this stuff, meet all these aliens, meet all these other species, and then we're all kind of just taken back home. And the two great aliens got into the front, and then we were all kind of here. And that's it. We're communicating like rapidly, and the images of the leader are in people's heads. Like, what was that thing? Like, what do you think about that? And as if you would when you're kind of get out of an exciting movie and with your friends, and you talk about everything. And so yeah, there was the impression of, what the hell was that? What was the whole meeting, right? And then that's it. I can see Toronto on the screen. I couldn't see it before. It was all blacked out. This time it seemed like I could actually witness Toronto, and I could see Toronto coming on the screen, and I could feel from the craft really quickly it was going to take me. And so then I projected, "It was nice meeting you all," and I got zipped out. I got placed in my apartment, and it all came out in the memory that this was like 2 p.m. So there was like some kind of like missing time. And then my mind, in some kind of like subconscious state, from the telepathic message that the elder placed into me back in my first contact event to not look at it, I apparently say, "I've been here the entire time." And then when the memory is kind of all erased or taken out, or however they do this, I have no knowledge that I have the contact event, and I get sealed up for 20 years. It only comes out in flashbacks. And as all the pieces kind of come together, I piece it all and get blown away that, yes, I 100% am convinced this is how it rolled out. I was walking on a Saturday morning, taken from the outside of my apartment. And when it came back, I was placed on the inside, and I was never aware that it occurred. Whew. Okay. So so this was all I ever get about alien genetics within the human population. But most importantly, I had drafts of my book out before You know, John Ramirez or Lou Elizondo had said whatever they had said, as I mentioned in the previous, in the beginning of the presentation. So this is all, for me, it's all corroboration. And I'm fully convinced this is a fact, that there is a gray alien genetic line within the human population. And, you know, there could be other species. This might be the whole game, is that there might be Pleiadian lines, Mantis, I don't know, Mantis lines, who knows, right? We just don't know. But I'm convinced, because I had the whole gray thing, that the gray line is in the population. Now, one of the more exciting parts about me going public and me talking out loud about my contact events is that other people reach out to me. And I'm always really, I get really excited by that, and I do really enjoy it. But what happens is that not everybody's a contactee, but a lot of people are having experiences. I have several people who can witness UFOs. They can conjure up UFOs. They can make them happen. They can kind of want them to happen, and they can see them. You can see them with other people, or they're having significant sightings by being pulled out of their bed. And they're like in the middle of the night, and then they keep having repeated moments where they're feeling drawn to look out the window. Something's telling me to look out the window. They look out the window, and there's a triangle craft. And they have this repeated experience. They don't identify at all being an alien contactee. They don't have any contact events or nothing hidden in the background. Not that that doesn't mean they have alien contact, of course, we know that. But and also just the repeated, we have so many versions of this, right? People who have telepathic experiences with UFOs. Well, every time I open up that door with that person talking to me, I always try to ask, what's your genetic line? And every time they mention a Celtic line. It doesn't have to be strictly Celtic, but it's in there. They might have a half or quarter, right? And so that's the case with me. I have Celtic blood. And so because it was always Celtic, like Irish is when I say Celtic, I mean Irish, right? Every single person I've ever interacted with that has UFO sightings that seem drawn to them. That's what it is. It isn't just a random UFO sighting. It's something is going on where that UFO is communicating with that human, or vice versa, the human is communicating with that UFO. And there's something going on. There's an interaction, an exchange. And that exchange is happening because the UFO identifies the human, and it recognizes or does something, or it knows how to draw out the human. It knows how to conjure up the human. It knows how to talk to that human. And why would they be able to do that? If there wasn't a genetic connection going on here, where they can draw the genetics, they can draw the consciousness of that person because they share the same genetics. In fact, actually, just like the elder said in this contact event, that there's a frequency because of the genetics that they can tune into. So this is what I think is going on, that this genetics is permeating the entire planet, and random people can have random experiences, and the beings can sense it, tune into those people. They know who those people are, and they have varying programs for different types of people, right? Now, here's the kicker. I'm only an amateur at all this stuff. Is it really a Celtic bloodline? Because look at the humans who were on this contact event. Congolese, right? Serbia, right? Iceland, Russia, like, is that really what this is, a Celtic bloodline? But then again, you know, the aliens did say this goes back into pre-human history. So it could be so far back into our genetic structure that it's amalgamated into multiple different ethnicities throughout the planet. So it's really just hard to say, right? It's meant to, they said some things, there is corroboration. I'm fully convinced of it. So I met humans, and I want to go into a little bit about what I thought about meeting these humans. So when the Serbian woman says Aklak, Serbia, I eventually went out and did research, and I don't find an Aklak, but there's a Kakak, Serbia, which is a really, there's only 24 cities in Serbia. It's a very small country, and Kakak is actually one of the major cities. So that was really strange, and I don't really know. But I have flashbacks of these people's faces. So this is a I think she's a delegate in the Senate in the States, and she's Polish, so she's not Serbian, but it's that face structure. So when I saw her, I said, that's that's the girl. That's the face structure I saw. That's the face I saw in of the Serbian girl, and she would have had black hair but shoulder length, and then but her like of course this woman is a little bit older, but it's the same eyes and the nose and the kind of like the chin. Like it's this type of look is what is the look of the Serbian girl that I saw. So I keep having flashbacks like this. I'm not thinking about this contact event, and then I saw a Russian soldier on the news for this Ukraine Russian thing, and I had a flashback of the Russian I saw. I thought that's the face structure, that structure, that's the Russian kid I saw. So this is real for me, right? This happened, and the Congo guy, I didn't know that was a corroboration that Congolese people have French is their major language, and I could hear him speaking French in the memory. So that's a really fascinating connection as well too. Oh, and the blonde-haired guy from Eastern Europe. Well, in 2001, Yugoslavia was at war. So is that who this guy was? Is this guy from Yugoslavia? Right? So there's for me, these humans were all real. Oh, and I also want to maybe put a stamp out there that if any human ever tries to claim to be one of these people, they're going to have everything that I have. And meaning a telepathic connection. And not just that, I've experienced this already, so I know this can happen. I've been able to connect, other people have been able to connect with my being, and then I can feel the cross telepathic happening. So they would have everything that I have, and they'd be able to do everything that I'm doing. So they would have to prove to themselves that anybody I meet is one of these people. But I believe they're out there. I actually have looked at, I've looked for these countries and looked at what happens when people are abductees or contactees. And in fact, most of these countries frown upon humans or frown upon people going public about alien contact. So, but I'm certain that they're out there. And also the leader did say, you may or may not have your memories, right? Some people may not have these knowledge and they may never, and some of them, they maybe are aware now that they have had alien contact, and who knows? So maybe they'll find my book and reach out to me. Okay, the last part of my speech, and then we'll open it up and we can talk and hang out. Sorry. So this was my initial theory, that alien genetics are in the population, and that abductees, that they're wanting that genetic line, and they're curating it, and they're adding more to it over time, over generations. I have a essay on my website about having alien genetics, and there is a science behind creating hybrids. You know, scientists do create hybrids, and there is a science, and you have to do it over generations. So the idea that pre-parents and grandparents or some version of those have been abducted, and then they're actually, without the knowledge of the abductee in the 70s, is putting their genetics into fetuses, or putting their genetics into the next fetus, and then that fetus grows up having some version of a kind of cross compollination of an original genetic line, then added to and creating more of that alien genetics mixed with the human genetics. And so I do think that the beings are thinking this way. They did with my contact event. And it does seem that there is something like that going on here, where they're very aware of the genetics that they're trying to create here. So I do say here, you may have alien genetics if you're having regular or multiple UFO sightings, have felt attracted during a sighting. So you're watching a sighting and something has happened, right? I know people who have this, where they're having an event in their life happen, and then it's like a very powerful moment. Maybe they're having a ritual, they're doing a Wicca thing outside, and then there's a UFO sighting, right? Something happens where it's more than just a random thing you do. You're driving the car and you see a UFO. This is not that. This is something that kind of calls to the consciousness. And I do know that there are people who have these, and we have them on Vancouver UFO, and they talk like this. And I'm convinced this is a genetic connection that's making this happen. And also, we have had people, and people have had this experience. You can communicate with UFOs, and why would they? I do think that there's a cross thing going on there too, where that they want that connection, and they're very aware. The alien is very aware of the genetics of that person, and they can kind of tune into that person. So for me, it doesn't really mean a lot, except for me coming out with a book. Otherwise, I'm a normal human. But the paranormal part of my life is really wacky. And I'm convinced some of the paranormal is me. And I have an explanation for that. But I'm and so in the research of paranormal does seem to be largely electromagnetic, drawing off the bioenergy of the individual. So an entity is in the space, it's a haunted house, and then they draw off the kind of fear response of the human. And that's why you get this kind of experience going on with ghosts, where they might make an environment cold because they're drawing off of the energy, the natural energy of the air. They're drawing off it to interact in the physical realm. Well, and abductees are well known for having paranormal events, like a lot. And I do believe 100% that in some cases it is a being. I'm convinced in some cases. For me, I definitely have the elder. It's 100%. I have telepathic communication with her right after a paranormal event. I know it's her. I know by fact. And some of these things are manifestations. They're strange shapes and things that form in the air, and I can't do that. But some of them are me, and I know that by fact. So a signature of having alien genetics is having, at some point in your life, at least what it is for me, what I believe, is having out of control psychic abilities. Maybe it's not even you, but it could be your parents or your parents' parents. So my mom had this. My mom had a psychic ability she couldn't control, and she has Irish blood, and it was the death aura. She could see people. She knew people were going to die, and she would see the aura around them, and it was horrible for her. She hated this. It was not something that she paraded around to try to make herself feel important. She tried to repress it, and that caused her problems. That she tried to repress this psychic power, and and I had this. I identify my past life memories as being kind of an out of control psychic ability, where I kind of like, I'm drawn to want this thing, and it's kind of this thing that happens automatically and it's going on all the time, and I have to work to control it. I have to work to say no, I don't want this anymore, and kind of create barriers around things. So my own experience with this kind of like paranormal and alien genetic side. So I don't talk about it at all because I don't want people, telling me to replicate stuff. But I have had telekinesis experiences where I've been able to move objects. Now that happened in contexts that were very similar to the paranormal events that have happened in my life, so for example, the point I'm trying to make is that in all these cases, I was in a raised state. I was in a, what might be called bhakti. So I was in a state of like high elation, like spiritual high elation. Like I might have been devotional. I might have been thinking about my guru or my God. I'm thinking about that, and I might have been in the high state. I might have been excited. Plus, I would have been in a subconscious state. So I've been in a flow state, as they call it, a flow, the psychological flow state. So I'm removing my kind of more conscious mind. And I was in this excited state, and I did something, and I moved my hand out of excitement, and an object on the table slid over, and it couldn't have fallen off because there was a lip off this desk, off this table I was on, and it jumped up and fell on the ground. Nothing was near me. There's no air. There's no movement. There's no way. And I moved my arm, and this thing moved. And this was all around my alien contact kind of stuff coming out, and I was having paranormal events happen around at the time. But some of those paranormal events also, in one case, I was transcribing my 10th contact event. For those who know it, that's the hybrid contact event, and it created this energy. It created this weird vibe in my life during it, and I had several paranormal events happen. In one of them, I was transcribing it on my phone, listening to it, transcribing it. I was in the living room, and then the phone did something it's never done in its life. This cursor just went, it buzzed all over the place, and then I felt this thing in me, and it went by and hit the just this vibration, just this feeling, and the speaker turned off. And I could feel the speaker turn off from something going on within me. And the sound for the speaker was like playing music, and literally a button pressed off. The iPhone did this at the exact same time. And I think of those as kind of out of control, like this kind of electromagnetic effect is happening that's paranormal by nature, and it seems to be out of control. I don't know how to control this stuff. I don't know how to recreate it. I don't know how to control it. It happens in these kind of excited states of bhakti or dimension or paranormal, and in subconscious. You have to kind of remove the conscious mind, and you kind of have to get into a flow state. When I see the elder, I see the orbs, I see the crafts, I see these objects, I see them regularly, saw them just last weekend. And even in that state, I have to get into this kind of I start thinking about ghosts. I start thinking about the paranormal stuff I've seen. And then when I do that, I can feel the vibe changes. And then I know they're here. I can kind of sometimes feel them. And then I see the lights, I see the objects. And these are all things I kind of feel are part of the alien genetic side of me. I've been able to see thoughts. I've been able to kind of push how far I can go with some of these things at times. And I've been able to see people's their imagery projected out of their mind, and then looked at what they were looking at, and they were looking at the thing that it was projected in their mind. I thought that was really fascinating. And then the last is that just I don't really know anymore, except for I'm just telling you my experience. But when I was going through getting these memories out, I had a dream one night, and I'm in a state when I'm in these when I go into the memories, I have to pull out the memories and pull out what was said to me. I have to go into the me that knows them. I have to go into who that guy was, and I have to get into the state. And especially in those early contact events, 1, 2, 3, I'm in this kind of electric charged state. And so I think I was around the third contact event. I was drawing out the memories, and I was bringing the me that knows them out, trying to like get the me that knows them. That night I had a dream, and all those genetics were activated. I was the me that knows them, but I could feel the alien genetics in me activated. And I was floating, but I wasn't in the dream. I was floating. I wasn't floating upwards. I was floating downwards. I was floating down this pathway, and my feet were like tilted down, and I was floating like a gray alien, and all the genetics were activated. I could feel the me. I could feel I was the me that knows them. And so the point is that a lot of this seems to be out of control. I don't know too many people who can control this stuff. And though you can control psychic abilities, but there seems to be another state going on here of like telekinesis, floating, right? There's something else kind of going on that seems to has this ability to expand, yet the beings don't even seem themselves to be that concerned with trying to get humans to kind of understand these things, right? Because this is what I think it's all about. That when there's going to be a change on the planet, something's going to happen, then we're all set and ready to go, and we've got the genetics for it. And in the 24th contact event, the next one that would happen after this one that I did the presentation on, the elder herself distinctly says, they're basically going to make a change, some kind of electromagnetic field change on the planet, and then you're going to have the proper stock of genes to make use of it. So there's this feeling that it's all for something, not for the present. It's not like for me to be someone special and I can float and do things, right? Like and the elder doesn't even talk to me like that. Having a telepathic communication with her, she doesn't try to like encourage me to do these things. It's kind of like something that's being harbored for later at another time. And I do know that other contactees feel this way. I'm reading in Dr. Jacobs' book. He talks about this idea that you're going to be activated at a time. There will be something will happen on a planetary level, and you become activated. And that's kind of what this all feels like it's being reserved for. Something to change, something to happen, and then you have this ability to move into that state. Because it's just really weird, all right? I list all these kind of abilities and these things, and I don't know how to control them, and I don't know how to make more of it happen. And it doesn't seem like they really care for you to get better at that and master that. It just seems like it's something that's there and that will be activated at a certain time. So anyway, that's my spiel on alien genetics. It's very fascinating, tons more to explore, and I'd like to hear from everybody and anybody who can relate to or connect with this. So thank you. That's my email. Also, don't forget my book. If you haven't got my book, you can always buy my book. I do explore more of that content there. And you also have my website, jeffselver.com, is where I have essays on alien genetics there as well too. Whew. I am going to stop the screen here, and let's open it up.